With less than 3 weeks to go before the Scottish referendum on independence, a new poll suggests that the Yes campaign is gaining momentum. But what will be the implications for the UK if Scotland does decide to leave the Union? Well, joining me now to talk about it is our political editor, George Parker. George, David Cameron's official spokesman recently said that there are no detailed plans to deal with Scotland leaving the Union. Is there really no contingency in place?
Well, that's the official line. The government is absolutely petrified that if it looks like they're making contingency plans for a Scottish yes vote for independence, that will be seized upon by Alex Salmond, the First Minister, as proof that the British government at Westminster is preparing for defeat. I think behind the scenes, away from ministers, possibly nothing in writing, I'd be amazed if senior civil servants weren't making contingency plans, at least inside their own head. But the moment anything that went down on paper, of course, that would be seized on by the SNP. So I think if it is being done, and I suspect it is being done, it's being done very discreetly, probably away from the eyes of ministers. One other thing to say about this is that although the government officially is not making contingency plans, we do know that the Bank of England is making contingency plans. Mark Carney, the governor, has said that they're making provisions in case there's a yes vote, in case, because of fears about what currency an independent Scotland might use, there's some kind of run on the Scottish banks. So the preparations are in place, the Bank of England, the possibility of emergency lending, for example, to Scottish banks. So there are contingency plans, but officially, at least at a government level, there aren't.
And of course, if Scotland does vote yes, there will be huge questions that will arise, from debt to oil reserves. What do you think will be the biggest points of conflict?
Well, I think the biggest point of conflict will be the one that's been the biggest point of conflict throughout this referendum campaign, which is, what do you do about the Scottish currency? What currency does independent Scotland use? It's been made absolutely clear by the three unionist parties here at Westminster that the rest of the UK won't agree to share a currency with Scotland. And even if they're bluffing, and I was speaking to a senior parliamentarian today, there's a question about whether the House of Commons would actually agree to a currency union with all the sharing of political and economic risk that would involve between this Parliament and an independent Parliament up in Edinburgh. I think that's one thing. The division of the oil reserves, probably one for the geologists. I think that could be settled fairly amicably. I think the big issue arising from the currency question is whether, if the rest of the UK refuses to form a currency union with an independent Scotland, whether the independent Scotland would then carry through on Alex Salmond's threat to walk away from their share of the UK national debt. Now, if that happened, that would bring about all sorts of market concern about whether Scotland is a reliable payer of its debts and so on, and whether the markets would be prepared to lend to Scotland in future, at least at an affordable rate.
Final question, George. Do you think that the UK has been a bit too complacent over this? I mean, is there now a real possibility that Scotland will vote yes?
Well, I think there have been episodes of complacency. I think towards the end of 2013, there was a bit of a view in Downing Street. It was just a question of how big the margin of victory for the no side would be. But I think since the turn of the year, there was a narrowing of the polls then. I think there's been a movement away from that. I think people are aware that this could be close. And I think the opinion polls in the papers today showing that the no side's only leading possibly by 53 to 47. If there was any complacency, it's been shaken away because we're into the final straight and things are looking very close.
George Parker, thank you very much.